by war and threats. In order for the United States to mark victory, we must lead Afghanistan in their transition from American occupation to freedom through nonviolent religious and political summits. This tactic is known as soft power and will allow Afghanistan to stand up on 2 feet without corruption, militant Islam, and subsequently American occupation. While more than 1 billion Muslims follow their faith peacefully, there are still thousands who have gone astray from the Islam's central tenets. By curtailing the recruitment process of these future terrorists, we will put an end to the radically justified holy killings and insert a stopping plug into the fountain that breeds both terror and violence. Through the Council of Experts who have dealt with this violent justification, we can band together as a global community to attack and destroy terrorism from the ground up. As the United States experiences deja vu with the path similar to that of the Vietnam War, the window to deviate is quickly closing. 2 main obstacles stand in the way of a freer, more democratic state of Afghanistan, including the corruption in the Karzai government and the country's economic dependence on opium trade. The corruption in the government has bred distrust on both the international and domestic fronts, resulting in a severed connection between the people and the government. These summits will spark an era of change in a government established upon corruption and threats. A change that will induce alternative methods for economic prosperity, ranging from technology to agriculture. As a result, Afghanistan will be able to rise upon a foundation of nonviolence, one that will allow the government to increase stability and transition to a more sound democracy. Now I'd like to answer 3 main questions involved in my proposal. First, why can Operation Enduring Freedom not succeed alone? Well, it has been said that the challenge by Michael Semple, the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard, said that the challenge in dealing with the Afghan government is to encourage the good and forbid the evil. But current strategy contains no silver bullets for delivering a government that the population might consider trustworthy or legitimate. These summits will provide these silver bullets so the people can once again trust their government and rid out any corruption there is and stabilize the country of Afghanistan. The second question I'd like to point out is why we need soft power. And Ashley Tellis of the Carnegie Endowment said that President Obama's AFPAC strategy is courageous and responsible, but still incomplete. The administration needs to commit to building a democratic state of Afghanistan by deploying additional U.S. resources. This is exactly what we're doing. We are completing the job that Operation Enduring Freedom is set out to do. Operation Enduring Freedom cannot succeed alone. We are adding another branch to Operation Enduring Freedom. So in July 2011, the United States is ready to pull troops out and get our boys home. Lastly, the question is how we can dismantle the recruitment process. Ashley Tellis, again of the Carnegie Endowment, said that the Afghan people are currently faced with the choice of either supporting a corrupt and ineffective government or stepping in line with the Taliban so as to avoid further abuse. Often the second option is better for the Afghans than the first. The terrorist threat will be a perennial one unless the government is given credibility through a system of checks and balances. These summits will provide supervisors so the government will once again become trustworthy, and the Middle Eastern intellectuals will provide this to them. Thank you. I yield the remainder of my time.
If you meticulously read this proposal, you will find many flaws in it. For example, on lines 11 through 12, it states, "It is of the utmost importance to relinquish the financial burden along with its growing terrorism." Maybe we'll save a couple of $1 billion, but before we know it, Afghanistan's freedom will be suppressed and seized by the Taliban. That's not stopping power. Also, in addition, on lines 31 and 32, it says, "Implementation of a soft power strategy will alleviate struggles to transition by providing supervisors for Karzai in Afghanistan on the road to democracy." This is ridiculous because the supervisors would be utterly useless if Karzai's government turns away from democracy as they have in the past. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I strongly disagree with the war in Iraq, but the war in Afghanistan was and still is a necessity, not only to catch those that murdered thousands of innocent Americans in our World Trade Center, but also to eradicate the inhumane terror that the Taliban regime instigates in the area. Especially their incomprehensible treatment towards women. A news story just 2 weeks ago featured the faces of women and little girls who had acid poured in their faces just because they were trying to attend school. Now, the Taliban's power has been significantly being dwindled, and they are currently on the run. Why is this? Because of the valiant work performed by courageous and brave troops. Trying soft power or diplomacy is not the solution. If this proposal was enacted, how do we know that the life-taking, women-oppressing, and terror-proliferating Taliban would not return to power without the strong military presence of United States troops? Furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, the author talks of corruption as a reason for trying diplomacy. There is a fatal flaw in this logic. Diplomacy will not work where corruption runs rampant in the host country. And trust me, Afghanistan is corrupt. They're the 5th most corrupt nation in the world, the United Nations World Statistics. An example of this corruption is seen in President Karzai himself. In Kandahar, 25,000 people cast ballots. Well, as it turns out, apparently 250,000 ballots were cast all for Karzai. In addition to being one of the most corrupt nations in the world, Afghanistan is also one of the most unstable nations in the world. Another detriment to diplomacy. Afghanistan's main export is opium and heroin, with over half of the population being addicted to it, some as young as 1 month old. They have the 3rd highest infant mortality rate in the world as well, World Human Index database, and some of the poorest living conditions in the world. Rampant corruption and tragic instability are not just roadblocks to diplomacy, they are a cement wall. Talking about Afghanistan's problems, no matter how intellectual, will not solve its deep underlying problems. And furthermore, the Taliban does not even use diplomacy. You cannot use diplomacy in a place where it will not be effective. Therefore, soft power does not work. If you want diplomacy to work, you must use its antithesis, hard power. If we want to stop the Taliban forever and protect Afghanistan.
When our great nation was founded, it was not only built on the bloody revolution that made the independent United States possible, but also on the intellectual ideologies that now define us and our country. In the same way, if we ever want Afghanistan to become a flourishing nation, we must be sure to assist in providing both the military necessities of their fight for freedom from their terrorist oppressors, but also give them an opportunity to cultivate their own intellectual and religious philosophies which will one day become an integral part of their government, much like the ideas of freedom, equality, and balance have shaped our own. Because just like American colonists wanted to be free of tyranny and injustice, the Afghan people desperately want to be free of the Taliban. In fact, it could be said that the Afghan people want their freedom more even than our patriot forefathers wanted theirs. According to a poll done by a collaboration of ABC, BBC, and ARD German TV in January of 2010, only 10% of Afghans support the Taliban, whereas according to reputable historian Robert Middlehoff of the University of California, Berkeley, 19% of colonists during the Revolutionary War supported the English monarchy. And this news poll revealed a few other interesting statistics. That 7 out of 10 Afghans support the U.S. presence in their homeland, and 61% think that their children will have a better life than they have had. The people of Afghanistan want independence, and they overwhelmingly want our help, just like we needed the help of Spain and France when it was our turn, only 235 years ago. As we all know, however, our founding fathers did much more than just fight and war against their enemy. They also met frequently, both formally and informally, to discuss and debate and hammer out their own unique worldview, drawing from the British heritage and the French allies, as well as from their own innovation. This proposal gives the Afghan people the opportunity to do just that.
Thank you, Speaker. We will now hear from our first con speaker.